First, welcome back. You're here with the OGs, an OG episode with Casey and John. This is kind of our old format where we just kind of jump on, kind of have a little chat sesh, talk about what we've been seeing lately in our day-to-day. And today's an especially important day in the marketing world because it is none other than Black Friday 2022. Welcome to our Black Friday Live. John, how you feeling this wonderful Friday?
Dude, it's my favorite day of the year. I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are like, you got to work on the holiday weekend. I'm like, yeah, but it's so fun though. Like, it's like the most fun day I have at work all year. So yeah, no, dude, it's a good time. It's a little different this year. And anybody who caught my Twitter thread, I don't know, quite a few weeks back now, I'm not as structured anymore. Casey still is as structured. So this is a weird one because it's probably the first time ever on Black Friday that you have more data like to look at than I do. But yeah, I'm still working with a couple brands that got some sales going and stuff like that. So I got some macro trends I can go over. But how about you? How are you doing? Have you bought anything today?
I haven't yet today.
Are you going to buy anything?
Yeah, I'm sure I will. You know, I guess maybe it's being a marketer. Maybe it's just like a personality thing, but like the right deal will come to me at the right time. Like it's kind of hard to avoid it, you know?
I trust the Black Friday gods to
I mean, it's not the gods. Like we know how the wheels get in motion. Yeah, we've seen too many cows slaughtered to not pretend to know how you're supposed to enjoy a cheeseburger, I guess.
Yeah, there's something like that. Yeah.
I got dark. No, I don't know.
I do. I actually think I'll buy. I haven't bought much either, but I do think I'm gonna buy. My wife's just been sending me stuff all day. That's how I'll figure out the deal that comes to me.
Of her, honestly.
Yeah, just texts.
Hey, here's the stuff you can buy for us, so that I'll be happy with you.
Right. Yes.
Thanks, honey.
She's giving me the roadmap. So yeah, no, I mean, I do know. Actually, I already know I'm gonna end up buying some stuff before the day is out, but it'll be good. It'll be fun. That's what it's all about. It's like games got to support gamer. I don't know, something. But I feel weird not buying anything. You know what I mean? Anyway, so what are you seeing across the structured? I've got like a couple things here that I'm seeing this year. What's working, what's not working. What are you seeing across the structured group of brands?
Well, yeah, I mean, I know we're going to be sharing some examples, some emails, some ads that we're seeing today. We'll talk about those. So we'll get into some like finer examples of things here, but just generally across the board, there are some like year-to-year trends that I think are worth mentioning. And with that data that you're talking about, John, I don't know that it's exactly what you'd expect, but maybe we should have seen it coming a little bit more. Because the main thing when you first asked me to pull something out that's kind of in general across the board, across a lot of the brands that we see at this time, the first thing that came to mind was demand planning has continued to be difficult for brands. You know, like we're seeing hero SKUs sell out kind of earlier than you'd expect on a successful Black Friday, which a lot of brands are killing it right now. But a lot of those like top SKUs have been sold out already on our side for a couple of days, maybe a week, which is fine if that's what you plan for. A lot of the brands, you know, they have plenty of options, plenty of great things to sell on their site. But from a marketing point of view, I think naturally you have to make some mental adjustments when some of those hero SKUs are gone. You know, you have to temper expectations or at least be aware that things could turn south quicker.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we always would say, especially in e-commerce, where we're not always running ads like add to offer landing page type of thing where, you know, if you run out of stock, like, so let's say you have a product and you're running ad directly to a product page. If you run out of stock of that product, your ads are going to tank immediately, right? Like quickly. And that's kind of like traditional direct response marketing is like that, or it's in a funnel or whatever. So if you run out of stock, it's like, you know, right away, because that whole campaign tanks and you can just turn it off. But with e-com, a lot of times we're running catalogs or we're running ads to collection pages or sometimes even the homepage or whatever. And when the hero, it's like a slower death that it's like harder to notice sometimes when it's like, oh yeah, some of our best selling SKUs, even, and I'm not even saying products, sometimes it's like SKU, right? Like the color variant or the size variant runs out of stock. Like performance takes a dip and you don't really know why, because, you know, everything's still in stock and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I definitely, when That's funny. It's what, 5 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Pacific on Black Friday, and you're talking about already. We're the first day into the BFCM weekend, which we all know everybody's starting early these days, but and you're talking about hero SKUs are already out of stock for some brands, which yeah, exactly. Like I feel like in 2020, basically what happened was sales were incredibly good. Nobody could get product. That was the problem, right?
And we would set the table of that year. There was a lot in the air at that time too. We didn't. I mean, sure, everybody was at home, but we didn't know for sure that everybody was going to be spending in record amounts because there was not a lot of confidence and paychecks coming in for a lot of families and stuff.
Right.
So that was a boom when we didn't expect it necessarily.
Yep. And on top of that, it was hard to get product.
Right.
And then
And all of
all
that.
they were, yep, all founders were thinking about at the end of 2020 was like procure product, like get the product and then we'll be okay. And almost all of them over planned for 2021. And it was kind of like a struggle, right? Like that puts you in a
Right.
really tough cash flow position
But
as a founder.
feels like for those people, potentially the same person could have been double burnt from both ends, right? Like first year, you
Exactly.
feel like you missed a huge opportunity,
Yep.
in the first year of the pandemic when everybody is buying in record numbers, and you go, dang, I really should have took a bigger swing. I should have ordered more products, should have had just more stuff
Yeah.
ready to go. And then yeah, you couple that with kind of a down year,
And yeah, even like a return to normalcy.
right,
And
which is down in comparison is what I mean.
down when you've got some big invoices to pay. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And I think it's a couple things. I think there's a couple things at play there. So first of all, a big principle that I don't talk about a lot because it's kind of like you don't want to like if other people are tooting your horn for you, you don't like want to untoot it. You know what I'm saying? But we all do this. Marketers especially do this. Salespeople do this. Founders do this thing where they claim more credit for a success than really is due to them, if that makes sense. So it's like if they were weighted attribution modeling some kind of win, like they're weighting their, whatever it is that they did or their capabilities is higher. And what I mean by that is that boom of 2020, it probably had a lot more to do with the pandemic than it had to do with you or me or anything we did, right? Like
Right.
that's what it had to do with. There was stimulus money. There were people at home. They wanted stuff that, could help them be at home more bearably. And it just, that's how, and they're bored, right? And they didn't have any, there was no travel or anything like that. Experiential things
Yep.
weren't competing for wallet share. That had more to
I
do
find
with
that
it than you or I ever could. It influences macro stuff, influences it more than any of us ever could, right?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's interesting how like the main person who would find this show interesting, who deals with marketing on a day-to-day basis, we'll until our face turns purple, we will look into tools to help us decide attribution between one channel to the next. But when it comes to these like enormous factors that the whole world is kind of facing at the same time, or even if it's like local stuff,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be, like it's not as easy to
Seasonality.
find that. It's not as easy to parse the data. So we go, well, let's just generally kind of not think about that then, when
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the best move. It's a pretty conservative approach, I think.
It's well, and look, we can't control it, sure, but at the same time, when you're in a physical product business that requires demand planning and ordering ahead of time, you can't ignore it, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's one thing I think that year showed, and I see that over and over, even from people who've learned it. I'm consulting now for a company that's like a really big info company. They sell like real estate investing communities and courses and stuff like that. And they have this issue with their salespeople. Their salespeople sort of claim more credit for, like, they think like, hey, we're the engine that's driving this whole company. And it's like, yeah, but that person's on HGTV, like the brand personality. They're on HGTV on a house flipping show. Like they're famous, like maybe it has a little more to do with them, like, or and vice versa. That person thinks it has everything to do with them. And it's like, oh, but are you managing a floor of 30 salespeople? And are you driving all the leads to those salespeople?
And we've
Every
worked on
piece, every link in the chain thinks they have more to do with it, but it's all the whole chain.
And I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we've had enough experience working with brands who have some kind of like high level like influencer or some kind of personality that's well known,
Right.
where we've been on both sides, I think, of those coins, where we felt like we're on both sides of those coins. Sometimes we
Oh yeah.
know we're benefiting from the celebrity of one person, and like maybe we believe we're doing like the best job possible and somebody else wouldn't do as good a job, but we know it's not. Hey man, the way I
Not all
crafted
us.
that headline is the reason this email worked, and the other, like we know better. But then other times we've come into brands from influencers, founded by influencers, and they're not meeting their projections, what they think they should accomplish, and we can come in and
Yeah.
help them leverage that a little bit better way, and all of a sudden something turns up and go, like, well,
Yeah.
now we at least got to acknowledge it's some kind of combination of factors, which is
Yes.
kind of essentially what this whole thing is about. I'm saying there's so many factors, it gets complicated trying to uh take too many learnings from any one thing, because
Yeah.
in honesty, Black Friday is such a short time. You have to look year to year to get any significant data. And I mean, how many years are you going to pull back from? You're going to go the last
Yeah.
10 years? The,
Right. You
everything
probably
has
don't,
changed.
you haven't been around. Yeah, exactly. It's really hard in e-commerce. Always call it to me. I always kind of guess tongue in cheek, or joke tongue in cheek, that e-commerce demand planning we should just call it e-commerce demand guessing.
I've heard you
Um,
say that.
honestly, there are some that have actually like are good at it, but they have like multiple years of data. They have good supplier terms, so they can like order small and turn quick, which is another thing I want to call out about this year in this particular lesson. Um, I think if I'm going to read the vibe of most founders that I'm talking to right now, they've been on two sides of a problem. They've been under inventoried and they've been over inventoried. And it is, to me,
One
pretty
feels
clear
better
which
than the other
one
generally.
feels better than the other, right? Being under inventoried is a bummer, right? Like you feel like you're missing stuff. You feel like you're missing out on sales. You know what I mean? You're
But you
kind of,
don't
God
start
dang, I wish I
worrying
had more.
about life problems
Yes.
nearly as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. That's exactly right. When you're over inventoried, that's when you start to have like real problems. And you start to, like, that trickles into other people in your organization having real problems.
And that can lead to making worse decisions. Like, you
Yes.
know what I mean?
Desperate.
One bad decision can beget the next.
Yeah, cash desperate decision making, exactly. And yeah, so I would say that there's a better side to err on, at least, right? Like you don't always want to just be out of inventory, out of stock, but then you're leaving money on the table for sure, but like it's better to err on that side. Plus, if you actually legitimately are running out of stock regularly, I mean, like it creates its own little marketing hype. Couple things that, speaking of which, couple things I wanted to call out that I've seen this year. The lead up being something different. So the out of stock thing actually made me think of this. I work with a brand. I'll just say who they are. It's Ondar. It's the wallet. It's the Ondar wallets. I'll show an ad. I'll show an ad for them later, but they're pretty dope. Ondar wallets. They got that little feature there. Got the switchblade feature. Sorry, I don't know how cameras work apparently. But what they have actually been leading up with is they have a collaboration with a really big influencer, and her product runs out of stock constantly. So essentially they like restock it and it runs out, and they restock it and it runs out. And they started this and they really hit a big restock in like August. And then they've been on this cycle of restocking a couple times a month since August. And that's been huge because we've been able to pump spend up in September and October, which are traditionally really hard months to spend in. We've been able to pump spend up in those months a lot and get a ton more traffic in, get a ton more subscribers onto our list, and do so profitably because we have these big restock drops. And then Black Friday hits and it's not a restock, it's a sale, right? And now we have all of this traffic, all these people on our subscriber lists, all this traffic to kind of like retarget and everything. And it's going really well. Their Black Friday sales up big time year over year as well. So leading with something different. So like, I think a lot of people did this thing where they're like, September and October are so hard. Let's just start early. I've said before, I'm not a big fan of starting super early, but doing other things in September and October that are going to allow you to just spend more without just losing money, right?
It's another conservative approach, I think, starting early. You raise your confidence that like you aren't going to be left, laying an egg and sitting on a ton of product you can't move, but you also realize you might miss out on like the most efficient time probably.
Yes,
So
you
you
do.
might spend more to make the same amount,
Mm-hmm.
which just leaves you feeling like that, like, oh, you kissed your stepsister kind of thing. You're like, yeah,
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you don't even know when you do it, right?
that's the
Like,
thing. Yeah, opportunity
We're the
cost.
only ones who know because we do a lot of different brands, so we can kind of like cross
Even
compare
then,
and
though,
stuff
it's
like that.
guessing, right? Like, we're just guessing.
Right. Yeah. We have a best guess. Yeah. The other thing I've noticed is it's a buyer's week. So I have another brand that I run for that is actually my brand. I'm a part owner of it. And we're not really Black Friday oriented. We're not like holiday. It's very much buy for self. And most of our money comes from a membership. And it's been an incredible, like usually this time of year, CPMs go up and all the non Q4 brands struggle during this time of year because CPMs don't go up and people aren't buying things for themselves. Not for us. I mean, not this year. Like it's been a year where it's been like, no, we've had our best weeks on Facebook in the last few weeks. And this week is no different. Like it's really good. I think people are just wallet out, right? Like people are kind of ready. Like, I don't know, they got that payment info saved on their IG, or they got the on their brow. Like it's just, easier for them to buy or something. But yeah, that's one I've noticed is brand we're not even running an offer for, not even advertising anything Black Friday for, is having a really good time right now.
Definitely.
Anything there
So
you just want to
sorry,
go ahead?
I'm behind the curtain here, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to make sure I have my things ready to show,
Yeah.
because we got another segment coming up here. Before we move on, though, I want to make sure, did we cover all the general trends that we at least wanted to mention? Obviously, we could talk all day about that, but we wanted to
Yeah.
kind of keep it light, do some fun teardowns. I think it's a little bit more,
Yeah.
actionable for a lot of people. We sometimes get into that heady like mindset, the ideas
Right.
you need to
Stuff.
have. Um,
I got one more
let's
that
keep
is a
going.
little more actionable. I have one more that is a little bit more actionable as well. Specifically on Facebook ads. Everybody across all of Twitter and everything is saying like Advantage Plus shopping campaigns or Advantage Plus campaigns are doing really well. So I actually am finding that what would have been formerly called DABA, I guess would now be called Advantage Plus catalog campaigns, are outperforming my Advantage Plus shopping, or my Advantage Plus campaigns vastly. So we have a brand where we're running Advantage Plus, and then we have another that's a manual setup with catalog ads to a broad audience. And it's killing. I mean, it's at probably 20x the spend at a better return than the Advantage Plus stuff. So if you have a catalog, so all we did though is we used our Black Friday, and I'm going to show one of the assets. We used our Black Friday assets in collection units, right? So Black Friday video with that product catalog underneath, and that's worked really well. And Black Friday copy with the carousel catalog. So that's like a pretty actionable one. Just if you don't have them going already, run those catalog campaigns and just use your Black Friday copy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you're going to show some examples, but we have at least one good sized brand, very successful, high efficiency account on Facebook. We're seeing very similar
It's
results.
mostly catalog. Yeah.
Mostly catalog and scaling. Just honestly, leading up into this, catalogs were crushing. Catalogs are still crushing. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overextend and say it works everywhere like crazy, but obviously when the right circumstances there, like I think sometimes there's a desire to overdo something, when not to get into the next section yet, but I think there's a general theme to where like that we tend to have on issues that are similar, to where you don't want to test just to test, and you don't want to like lean too far into something that's so vastly different than what works already in the account. You need to be kind of smart about which battles you pick, and so that when you get answers to data, you actually know what to do next, not just like, well, that was cool that we found out that works. So yeah, like I said, when catalogs are crushing leading up to Black Friday, like, hey, no crazy need to like, let's shift spend, 80% of that spend, let's put it over here now. Like that. Well,
no.
Come on.
Yep, we just ran Black Friday catalog campaigns with Black Friday copy, and then make sure all of our, because those catalog campaigns land people on product pages. Make sure our product pages make it really clear what the deal is.
I'd even go, I mean, depending on the brand, of course, but there might be some brands where they don't even need like a full new copy variation. If you have like a really proven, you might just run some proven copy. But I would say it's probably not a bad idea to at least test some like new copy headline of like Black Friday, something signal that you're acknowledging it's Black Friday.
We always say keep your evergreen ads running for sure.
Right. Yeah.
But cool. Should we
But
get into
even
some
in the testing even in testing for Black Friday, I think you have to create a control group of your testing super quick. And I think you just go
right?
like, what's kind of the smallest shift we can do from the proven winners to like something that's new and Black Friday facing, but not like something we have high confidence in, basically, that we're
Right.
probably going to keep running the whole time.
Maybe switch out the headline kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. High floor, as I would say. Low, maybe some low ceiling, because you're like, it's not really
Right.
hitting on all the Black Friday notes. That's okay. Let's
Yep.
create a bar that we want to make sure we get over with some of those
Right.
more aggressive plays.
Yep. Cool. Should we get in some teardowns? You want to start with some Black Friday emails you've gotten so far?
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Uh, it's funny, we do this so often, and I still am like, what do I hit?
Where do I bet? It's the little plus sign at the bottom.
We're just too many different things we share on, All right, I think this is the right guy.
There we go.
Heck
Oh, it's
yeah. All right.
we just see all of Casey's inbox right now. I guess just your promotions tab.
So this one,
Okay.
to be completely honest, I did just kind of do the like hit promotions tab, just kind of that whole first page before I actually hit. There's plenty to draw from. So I haven't thought about these a ton, but I did try to group them at least enough to where we might be able to have some conversations about a certain play. I have 4 pairs essentially. So the first pair I want to talk about, essentially, without even looking at the rest of the email, that's kind of how I categorize these. These first 2 are just calling them big stupid offer emails. And that is nothing against these brands, nothing against their marketing. It's actually a compliment. I think that's like the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. This embodies that to a T. Both of these, I don't need to scroll at all. Sure, I'm on desktop. Most people are opening their emails on mobile by the vast majority, but the principle holds true. On mobile, on desktop, wherever you're looking at this, you're going to see their offer front and center. There's no way you open this email and you don't know what the offer is immediately. Same thing here.
Oh,
they happen to be the same offer, and that's kind of one of the reasons they're grouped together, is because it's not just that the offer is front and center. It's an offer worth putting front and center. So
yeah. What do you thought?
If you're a brand that can afford an aggressive offer, use that to your advantage. Don't bury the lead.
What are your thoughts on that, the up to thing, right? Because I think a lot of people, the criticism is that it's like, oh, up to 60% off, and then you go to the site and there's like one crappy item that's 60% off, and the rest of it's all 30% off or something like that. What are your thoughts here?
It's weird, right? Like, as marketers, sometimes we, when we have to create narratives or make our best guess at why something's happening without data to inform us, sometimes we show our bias of like, oh, people who aren't marketers don't even catch that, right? But like, I think at this point, for a while now, most people are aware of the like messaging of like get up to, and that could be something that happens. At the same time, I don't know that the average person is willing to take that risk. If assuming you're on an email list for a reason because you're interested in the brand, when you see get up to 60% off, you can't automatically assume, unless you know that brand already does this a lot, you can't automatically assume it's the worst case scenario while still being true technically. I think you want to assume the best. If you're literally opening up the promotions tab to buy some stuff, you're on that buying fever. I think it remains especially true on Black Friday, but really any sale that it's actually an aggressive, good offer. I keep it simple, stupid, like put it front and center. That'd be, it's not always the best move, but I find it's one of those main things that a lot of brands just kind of miss the boat on right out of the blocks. And I'm like, hey, that's a foundational piece. It's like when you got an offer, use it. Just scrolling through the rest of this pretty quick. You can talk through it if you want, but just wanted to show the rest of this. Pretty simple email otherwise, which kind of lends itself to that theme, show some products, but mostly keep it simple. Most brands are pretty big fans of adding the code into the email so that, you have something to reference back to, not just a coded link, just to, so people don't get lost in the funnel and then not know if they're getting the discount or not. Avoid all that confusion. On this one, a little bit more to it, but essentially the same idea. Just show some product, a few more calls to action maybe sprinkled through on this one, but really similar styles. I consider this basically the same play, big stupid offer. John?
Yep.
I said my piece here.
Yeah, my thought, and I think that when it comes to showing bias. I think marketers show their bias too when they say things like marketers and founders show their bias when they say things like, "Oh, that's misleading." That like I hate when brands do that when it says up to 60% off and you go to the site and
Right.
it's only 30% off. Like, all right, well, if that's what your offer is, you have like one item that's 60% off and the rest of your store is 30% off. Do me a favor, split test 2 emails and make one of them say make the exact same design except for one says 30% off or at least 30% off site wide, and one of them says up to 60% off. And you tell me what performs better, right? Like there's a reason everybody's doing that. Now, if you from a brand perspective are like, well, I just don't want to be that kind of brand, that's fine. That's your decision, right? Like that's totally, if you feel like it's not an on-brand thing to do, that's totally okay. But from a performance perspective, I definitely have a hypothesis there, right? And it is that the bigger number would win.
What you just described, I'm so glad you brought it up too, because that's like a founder or some high level like decision maker taking like one loud negative voice or small amount of loud negatives, letting that speak is like that's like half the people. Like it just seems it's like
Yeah,
when
we've
you
had
create
multiple people
content and you
get
get
mad
one
about this.
negative content in a sea of positive stuff, and what stands out to you is the one negative, and
Right.
you attribute too much weight to that one negative voice when a lot of times it's you have to realize you can't please everybody, and a lot of those decision makers, they find themselves in those kinds of those circumstances all the time. And I think the more you have that kind of understood, just like you can't please everybody, let's at least please the people who are going to be the easiest to please. Let's give them what they want.
Right.
The last thing I just want to touch on before we move on here, on theme with these, in the subject line, they're actually calling out the offer too. So I'm not always I would say I'm pretty aggressive when it comes to offers, add them into subject lines and stuff. Sure. I think that's a good idea as a general practice. Sometimes it's nice to leave a little teaser,
Mhm.
tease a little bit to get the click to get the open for the email, then put the offer front and center to get the click through the email to your landing page. But on Black Friday, especially with as juicy as offers get, just cut straight to the point, put it right in
Yep.
the headline. It's worth it.
Yeah. That's what people are looking for. Cool. Let's move to some ads.
Let's go.
I got it. Right. Oh, same thing. Oh, at least I was faster than you. All right.
There you go.
So some of these are ads we have insight on, some of them are not, but I pulled up the ad library version of each of these.
Okay.
So let's hit this.
I think if you're watching this show this far into it, you probably can do the conversion in your head. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
people are familiar with this.
I've been searching everywhere for an affordable two-door cabinet piece and wasn't having any luck until my friend told me about Nathan James Furniture. I ran to their website to check out what all the hype was about. All of their products are on trend and seriously a breeze to assemble. This elegant Enlow cabinet fits perfectly in my minimalist space. I'm obsessed with these gold accents. No more paying for overpriced furniture. Just head to nathanjames.com to find the perfect addition to your space.
So this I wanted to pull up as example number one is because I think this is probably the first move I typically recommend. Is that's an evergreen ad that said nothing about Black Friday in it verbally.
100%.
The only thing that has Black Friday at all is right there, that overlay. That's like move number one. Just take your best performing like ads that already exist and just throw overlays on them and run them as Black
And
Friday.
we foreshadowed this already, right?
Yeah. So, and it looks, they did change the copy up, but Black Friday copy, Black Friday overlay, simple. That's move number one, right? And I'll show some other things too. Like I kind of am going in progression of like that's move number one, and I'll show move number two second. The only down criticism I have is I don't know if maybe they had to throw this together really quick. I don't know if the subtitles are usually right there in that box or something like that, but there weren't any if you were watching with sound off. But maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's already proven. Maybe it's already proven out that way. I don't know.
Yeah. I get what you're saying about that. I would say generally before we judge through like a Black Friday lens, I think you're wise to call out, like, you have to judge through like a regular lens first, like an evergreen lens almost. Because if this is something that's working for you, you want to start there. And it's pretty easy to see that that's what happened here. So you make a small variation and you try to hope that can be your level one move. And that doesn't mean you stop there, but it's kind of a necessity, honestly. And I will say this for the people who make this content, like you're saying, maybe it's covering up some subtitles, but you can see that this overlay was probably something added in after the fact, like you said, for the sale.
Right.
Whoever made this content originally, this video, they had the wherewithal to know their spacing for the things they already added that are probably native to, if it was made on TikTok or whatever the case may be. Yeah, they're experienced enough to know where to put certain things so that there isn't a ton of overlap. And work on different dimensions. I think that's something that I don't see a lot of these that would get cut off in 9:16 or
shoot a video that this would translate to 9:16 really easily.
Really easily. And vice versa, right? If maybe it was shot in 9:16 and we're seeing why it works here because nothing's
probably was shot in 9:16.
That's really what I mean, but it, we saw this version first. So.
Right. Yeah. So no, I think that's a good point. Yeah, and honestly, the reason I love these kinds of ads is I think a lot of Black Friday ads don't actually sell people the product, right? And we might see some of that in a minute. Maybe I'm foreshadowing a little bit, but like this ad sells people the product, and then it's like also, hey, we got up to 60% off Black Friday sale. So like when you can get prospecting working, like net new customers working or demand generation working on Black Friday, like that's when you get the most scale. So yeah, that's why I like that one. Let's move back to the next email, unless you got any more to say about that one.
No, I think I'm all set there. But yeah, overall, I think it's a valuable club to have in your club bag.
Yeah.
Golf bag. What do you call it? Golf bag?
Club. I think
bag
golf
bag.
Clubs. Bag of
golf. I would always call it like a bag of clubs.
Bag
Is
of
a club
clubs?
bag? That sounds weird though. Golf
in your
bag
bag.
Sounds weird too. I don't like it. All right, moving on. Not a golfer. Hashtag not a golfer. Moving on to something else here. Okay, so to kind of contrast the last group that I showed, I'm gonna try to compare the similarities first and then show you what the big differences are here. So these two emails, let's look at the subject lines first this time. You can see they try to do basically the same thing, right? Subject lines are all about grabbing attention. That's kind of the first and foremost thing you got to do, especially on Black Friday. You have to win the attention game, because even saying Black Friday or some sales language like doorbuster, that does not make you stand out inherently on a day like Black Friday. I think you need to go to some other tactics. So like capital letters, you don't want to abuse that kind of thing that can damage an email reputation. Some emojis kind of like this, as long as they make sense with what the brand is, that makes sense. But again, offer. These guys did toss in their offer. It's not as sexy as the last ones we looked at, right? 60% off, or at least up to. Even if this was up to 40% off site-wide, that's a weird way to word it. But hey, again, they got that site-wide in there, so that's nice. It's not as sexy, but it's still important to put it up there. But then we click in, and this is a mess. If I can just be frank, this is a good brand. Why would anybody want to see this when they first open up?
It could at least be laid out. It could probably be laid out better, at least,
1,000%. I have a feel. I mean, to be honest with you, I've looked at this email now like 3 times. I never really absorbed what the offer is, because like, do you immediately just looking at this?
No, like I had to like really actually. I was sitting here looking at it for a couple minutes, and I was listening to you instead of absorbing the offer.
Obviously, not obviously, but I already know it's some kind of like buy more, save more, right? Which a lot of, it says that right here, I guess. A lot of people just kind of chuck it up to that and be like, hey, yeah, you got to go to the site to get the details there. On Black Friday, I'm probably a fan of letting people know what's in there, but just even aesthetically, this just doesn't do it for me. I would probably, if I just had to give one quick, ping back to the designer on this, I'd say like, hey, let's probably start like a smaller font here, medium-sized font maybe, larger font here,
Right.
Also like the switching of the fonts. We're seeing 3 different fonts like right out of the gate, just weird design ideas. And I'm not the guy who talks about email design and what looks pretty all the time. We know that if we pay attention to these episodes that I've talked about emails before. But you shared something more particular with me that I want to touch on, where you're a little bit more classically trained, maybe like you've gotten some like classical design training, and I've been more like learn on the job kind of guy. Even though I'm the creative strategist job title, I still take a lot of my principles from things you've mentioned. And you mentioned like the sizing of font, right? The biggest thing in any one screen should be a certain size, and then from there, like your sub headline should be what, half the size, and then all other fonts should be like half that size. And this is just like all headline font. Drives me crazy.
It's too big.
I'll scroll through the rest of this and let you kind of see it here. I think there's a lot of negative space here that's not doing anybody any justice. It's just like excess space. You have to kind of scroll through.
Honestly, Mitchell and Ness just has the
what
they have the licensing deals that, I mean, it probably works, you know what I mean, just because it's them, but like, gosh, this could be so much better.
Exactly. And it's kind of like how I said we've worked with some big influencers or big brands where they know they're just not hitting their potential, and you're not leveraging that awesome like brand equity or the licensing deals that you already have. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Please proceed to break this down.
Yeah. So it's funny because like a lot of times somebody with classic like graphic design training will say something looks good, and somebody who's like a performance marketer will be like, it's not good. Right. Or vice versa. I think what we have here is like both the performance marketers and the classically trained designers could look at that first block and be like, that's not good. Like, this is not, it's, and the other thing that drives me crazy about it, will you go back up to that first block
real quick before I do? This is probably the only block that I'm like, hey, actually solid job putting this in there. Not a lot of brands do this, and I think it's smart. But it's buried too. Like, it's not what you lead with. Sorry, all the way up?
Yeah, all the way up. Like 150 to 249. Like, why? Like, that's so detailed. Like, that's too much detail. Like, just say spend 150, get 30%, spend 250, get 35. If they're like, wait, but what if, is it like the first, then you like have a, like, on the site when they click through in like more fine print, put the actual details. But like, you spend 150 to 249 and get 30%, like that, like you don't need to clarify, like now. And honestly, it gives me more questions. What if I spend 249.37? Like, is that in the 240? What if I spend 249.98? Like, is that in the 249 category and the 250 category? You know what I'm saying? So like, don't do that. Like, just keep it simple.
Real quick. Keep it simple, stupid. Always, right? KISS method. It's so fun to say too. Real quick, because I know I got to ping it back to you. This one, similar issue I have with it. Not as great an offer as we had in the first group. This one, I think those design people would be a little bit more okay with. Even the performance people probably a little bit more okay with it. Has one of these kind of like menus at least. There's a little bit more going on here maybe, but I think they just buried the lead. Maybe they don't have the best offer, but like it's not even included above the fold here. I don't know if on mobile it would be. It might be, but it's still kind of like, I don't know. There's nothing to like get me excited about this. It just says Black Friday, 30% off site wide. It's kind of like in The Office when Dwight hangs a banner that says "It is your birthday." Period.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
That whole top graphic thing, like that's what you're leading with when somebody comes in.
I didn't even realize it said Friday until like just now.
Yeah, that to me feels like a graphic designer, like masturbation, basically. You know what I mean?
Yes, this is, and I don't think it's one of those that another designer is like super into either. Same thing with the performance angle. It's like the last one, I think the performance people and the branding people to go like, this is a bad, this is a bad email either way. This one, they're both like, this is like a C either way. This is like average. Like, we can do better than this.
Yeah, I will actually throw them a little chalk on the offer because I think for Under Armour, that's really good. So Under Armour has that level of brand recognition. So 30% off, like, yeah, that is. Don't bury the lead. Lead with that.
Right. Agreed.
I think this would be better if you just took out that graphic. Black Friday, 30% off site wide. Yeah, you're right. It's not that poppy, but if for Under Armour, then you're going into category 1, and just being like offer front and center. Keep it straightforward.
Quickest critique I would make here is just kind of like it's a mental thing. If you get into like a template kind of for anything, whether it's ads, emails, copy that you write, landing pages, whatever the case may be, we have some experience in everything because we're kind of all around marketers. I would say if this looks normal to you, start experimenting more with like adding offers and like selling points into assets a little bit more, because that's real estate you aren't going to get back if you have to use that for an offer. And you can also make the like headlines here a little bit more engaging, maybe because the offer already be spoken for even higher up in an even more colorful way, more eye-catching way than this like black text on white background. So without beating the dead horse here, same thing. But they also had a similar, they put the They put the offer in the headline. Good job.
I like.
Not
I
a
wonder what
great
they're
offer
doing with
though.
that. Yeah, go ahead.
The Black Friday ... Like at least this one, I would say they gave a little like saying Black Friday doesn't make you stand out, but at least they used capital letters to stand out a little bit more
Yeah,
and some emojis, and they got the offer sandwich basically. This one, I think just like structurally, I don't know. I don't even know why I clicked on it, but I just happened to. Then I didn't like what I saw, so I was like, oh, I can
it's
tear
because it
this
was
one to
Under
shreds.
Armour. Yeah, it was because it was Under Armour. I don't really get what they're doing with that ellipses, to be honest. Like because it's like I don't know if they're trying to like, you know, okay, we're gonna dictate where mobile cuts this off type of thing, where it's like let's put an ellipses here so that if it gets cut on mobile, like we already planned for that. You know what I mean? Then it would
Yeah,
just the subject line would just be Black Friday ... If they did that and it actually works, that is pretty smart. Like, but I
right.
actually like just reading it and knowing the character count, I think it probably would cut out like Black Friday 30%... Like
I think it might go a little further than that, but like you don't.
I
It's
think
still just
most
not
mobile
needed.
browsers would actually take this whole thing, honestly. But
Yeah, that's I think so, or maybe site wide, but yeah, I think it just I'll shoot them some bail, just like you said. Like if it's something you know that works, you can lists are different, and you can train your list to expect certain
right.
things, certain quirks and stuff from you. But like, yeah, just structurally, like even though I don't love either, I think these two are essentially the same messaging. This one's just done a little bit better. This one
Yeah.
definitely ellipses is off, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a little
That
bit
one
better, maybe.
probably at least that one probably ellipses off after the like bar, honestly.
Yeah, it's actually probably pretty similar to me, if I'm being honest. I didn't this was my quote unquote bad block of
Yeah.
emails. So
Here's what not
let's
to
move
do.
on. John, hit me with that next
Yeah.
ad.
Stop
Playa.
telling people what not to do. All right, here we go. So if we remember, category 1 was take your stuff that performs well evergreen, that sells the product, talks about the product, just put overlays on it. This is step 2. So step 1, do that. Step 2, just make super simple, straightforward Black Friday stills. And you can also do a GIF version of the same thing where, maybe the text shakes around or that 30% off flashes or these scroll by or something like that, right? Like I think both have the stills and the GIFs. But a call out I have here is do we have a read more? No, we don't. If you are watching this and you do not know what Clutch is, do you now know what Clutch is by looking
What are
at
you
this ad?
doing? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah. You don't, right?
No,
Like
you don't.
Clutch
You don't.
charger. It does say Clutch charger right here.
Mhm.
But is it like, yeah, like still it's a little like a charger. Oh, I mean, maybe
Right.
enough people could connect the dots like, oh, it's a portable charger. I think, if I were to bet, if I were a betting man, I would bet this is maybe their best performing ad. And I think this is the kind of thing that this is why people say, oh, stills, do stills, do stills. If it's their best performing ad, I think it has more to do with the fact that they spend heavy leading up to Black Friday and get a lot of traffic, and they do a lot of press, and they get a lot of traffic. And so they essentially just have a large group of people who are already familiar with them, and then they can just put deal in front of people and it works. But if they had to do a lot of prospecting to scale on Black Friday, this wouldn't really do the job.
I agree with you. It's kind of that that take some proven winners and make like the smallest changes possible to kind of retain the juice, what makes it work in ad form. Arguably like taken too far, right? Because like you said, it's not actually explaining the product enough. The one thing I guess I would add is if you aren't familiar with Clutch, it is at least like so simple that you can either understand kind of what it is. You're like, it's a charger. I can, just even from here, we're not super zoomed in or anything. Like I can tell that's like a lightning thing,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of things that look like that. So it's
Right.
at least interesting if I'm not aware of it. You go like, oh, hey, what is that? You get some of that value. But I agree with you. It's maybe that's a critique. That's a valid critique there.
Yep. Yeah, and we do have multiple versions, but yeah. No, I think it's but yeah, I mean it probably works well for them because they do have a lot of traffic to read. There's a lot of people who already know what Clutch chargers are.
Sure. It's one of those brands that kind of lives on brand equity a little bit more. They kind of can play the cool game. When a lot of brands get into that, they're doing it out of some like weird ego, or I don't want to even say ego, but like they try to worry about that stuff too early. And this brand, like that's how they've had their wins. So it makes sense to kind of lean into that brand identity a little bit more. I will say this too, this asset, you tell me where this wouldn't work just as good.
Yeah. No,
in the paid ad.
This
could be
is gonna,
put into
if
an
you've got
email.
traffic to, yep, this could be put in an email. Like, it's very repurposable. And if you do have anyone who recognizes you or who you are, even if it's retargeting only, even if it's small, something like this will totally work.
Even for agencies at the highest level, right? This is a theme that comes up a lot. There are preconceptions that just get taken kind of too far, where like you think like, hey, I have this agency that they do all these different things, we need wholly different assets for this channel as we do on this channel, as we do for email, as we do for SMS. The the reality of that is a lot of that stuff is perceptual value if it's all wholly different, right? Like if you have good data behind a certain asset or a certain style of asset, like why wouldn't you take those learnings and adapt it, across the board, across all your channels? I'm not saying that it'll be apples to apples on every channel. You'll find
Right.
the same thing works, but if it does, there is a lot of value to having some universal assets.
Right. Landing page does make it a little more clear what this is. Oh, sorry. Landing page does make it a little more clear what this is. Another call out I have here is, look at this. They're actually sold out in pink, sold out in white. But the ad has pink and white on there. A lot of people would criticize that. I will not. I think good on them. I think a lot of founders want to take those ads down when
Sure.
A product sells out. If that's their best, and that just gives me more confidence that it's the best performing asset. That is the best performing asset. Like, let it run. It's not like you're only showing that product. And yeah, I mean, the offer still stands. So, don't undo all your learnings just because somewhere in the ad there's a product that is out of stock. Now, other people might be like, well, that's a bad brand experience. Maybe, but again, try it both ways, I guess. There's always trade-offs. There's always trade-offs.
I couldn't agree more. Like when you hire somebody like John or somebody like me, you're hiring performance marketer. And it's not to say we can't change our lens a little bit, but like if you ask us, we're going to tell you what we think will have the highest success rate, what will win the most for you. And when you have something that has data behind it, and I mean, there's a reason why those SKUs sold out, those colors sold out, right? Probably they sell the best. So that's why they're front and center in an asset. I will always respect a brand that chooses to like lean into the data a little bit more and be like, hey, that works. Let's at least let it die its own death, I guess. Let's at least let the performance dictate that it needs to be turned off before we make the hasty decision that like, hey, people are going to be upset.
Yeah.
Because I know I got a DM once that somebody was like, you put a pink one in the ad and I can't even get a pink one,
or even
on
more.
Black Friday, the average consumer has, just like how he said, average consumer has definitely caught up to date with the language of like get up to X. That's a trick. I think the average consumer is also well aware that people sell out in a matter of like minutes, on a certain sale on Black Friday. So like if they get an email that says like, or an ad that says like, hey, check out this, like that might have been sold out 5 minutes ago is all. Like,
to me, it makes the white and the pink are sold out. It makes the black actually like, it's like, oh, I better get that, right? Like they're still advertising those. But that said, yeah, like, I mean, what's even worse than like the DM thing of like, oh, I got a DM once, is like, I hate it when brands do that. You know what I mean? And that's how you're making decisions. Now that said, look, there's a whole world of like customer experience as a job, right? And
that's what
so you just, what I mean is, what I'm saying is like, it's fine if you want to make the decision to do that, but at least be intentional about it. Don't like make it based on your own biases. And also don't only listen to your performance marketing team that wants to run stuff that might be actually like long-term damaging. So like just be intentional and make the decisions with like as much like intentionality. And I don't want to say data, because you can't always get data on this stuff. Sometimes you just have to make instinctual decisions, but make the decisions with as much intentionality as possible, not with your own biases or like one person's biases.
Know what you know what's actually needed for you and your brand at that time, because it's not the same for, like I said, how other brands might get caught up too early in like the brand equity kind of thing, like, hey, we need to be like Nike, we need to be like Apple. How many freaking clients have we heard say that? And it's just not as important as
making some sales today.
Brands, exactly. Like, hey, how long are you going to be in business? Like, like, can we talk about that? Like, are you having to cut people loose? Like, are you like, things like that, to me is a lot more important than like, hey, are we as cool as Nike yet? Like, that's just, if you judge yourself like that, you'll never be successful.
Right.
So,
right.
Anyway,
see some
all
more.
right,
Let's
moving
see
on.
some more emails. Some more not bad ones. Are these ones bad or are these ones good?
They should all be pretty solid from here on out. So let me
If
pull
you're
this guy
watching,
up.
or by the way, if you're listening to the audio only version of this, we haven't described these very well. You're probably not still listening, but you should just definitely go watch this episode on YouTube.
Yes, I agree. YouTube, baby. Let's go. I don't know. I have no idea why I said that. But anyway, now we're looking at
Right.
an email from Flag nor Fail. You got to inject some personality into these things, right? Like we've been going almost an hour now. You get a little stir crazy, you just kind of being buttoned up the whole time.
Flag nor
All right.
fail.
So
This is interesting that you use them.
yeah. Flag nor Fail is an interesting brand. I'll just say. There's like I said, I mostly pulled these up, looked at them quickly, and like put them into a category just from first glance. I did not read the copy on any of these, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Let's see what I paired it with. Okay, I remember now. So what I wanted to point out about these two things is they have a cool, cool is not the right word to use, but they have an urgency factor that is just implemented into this. So like we can talk about how this one might not be the best usage of space completely. But hey, they listened to my first critique, put that big stupid offer out there right away. I love it.
Yep.
Honestly, if they want to take up this much real estate for a stopwatch,
yeah,
I don't care because they put all the important stuff up above it already. And they did that other thing. You include the code so that people don't get lost in the funnel. And you have a call to action. You know what? If the email ended after that,
yeah, it would be fine. So you can do whatever you want after. It's all boiled chicken after that anyway. So
yeah, exactly. It's all like explaining it a little bit more. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this.
They already clicked on that top
it.
shop now button. Yeah. So I mean, it's dugout mugs. You know, it just says beat the clock, last chance to get 45% off. Use code Dugout Friday. And then the way they did the coloring, they put 45% off and Dugout Friday, the code in different colors. Perfect. Like, and then like we were saying, look at the design, beat the clock, use code Dugout Friday, last chance to get, or the same size, last chance to get 45% off is bigger. Right. And then shop now is red, which isn't used anywhere else other than when you're supposed to take an action, which I love. I love all of the performance aspects of design here, and they did it without sacrificing their brand. The clock thing is weird for sure.
I don't even care.
I don't mind here. That's stopwatch, but yeah, I don't mind. Honestly, it's
they didn't try to do too much here. They led with that strong offer. Things you said, they used that coloring to make sure it stands out. They did kind of give some more logistical stuff, a little bit more of an explanation down here, which most people would have a critique of that if it wasn't included. So, you know, my extreme take of like that might not even be necessary. That's you're pleasing everybody as much as possible. And you have all this like real boiled chicken, like in the footer down here for all the branding stuff you need, connect with us on social, yada, yada, of course. Yeah. But like, I think if I'm being completely honest, from my experience with a lot of like really successful brands that hit a certain level, this would probably get disapproved. And I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't let something like this run. I would bet this performs well. The only reason I wouldn't say for sure that this doesn't outperform a lot of Dugout Mugs emails is probably because they take these principles and apply them to a lot of emails. So they probably have a pretty successful email.
They're actually pretty good at email. I'm actually going to take back the stopwatch thing, how we were kind of both like, it's a little weird. You know what I mean?
But I like it. I like this extreme motion that you don't normally see. And it's,
I like that they're trying to do, something else with their boil. They're like, hey, that section's boiled chicken anyway. Let's try something weird. I don't know.
That's what I mean. They didn't try to do too much, but where they did try to make a weird, not weird statement, where they did try to go over the top was just like kind of main asset, which like is not fundamental to this thing working. They just didn't, they didn't waste time. It feels very efficient, probably how they built this email. I can sense from like an email marketer, I can just tell them like, they probably didn't spend a ton of time on this and it's probably a huge return on that time. Exactly. Okay, so kind of grouping these together, same thing here. There's an urgency play here. They have a countdown timer, which a lot of email tools will let you do this now, add some kind of timer. I can't remember if it's this one, but one of these that I have in here is an example. There's a timer. It's just a GIF that literally, if you back out once and come back in, it starts at the same place that it started the last time. It's not a real timer. You can get creative with these things. If you don't know how to functionally do something on a certain platform, you can makeshift certain things. And I really like that they have that right at the top, leading with that. And then that offer, some kind of copy in here with no crazy formatting, not necessary really. It's fine. Not a huge text wall. And then I love this. This is what calls to action are important. And a lot of times, especially in email marketing, we just synonymize. I don't know what the verb is for making something a synonym, but we tend to think of calls to action as buttons, and
Yeah.
these could be buttons, but why not bigger? It's more real estate you can click on that'll send you to where I want to go, and they have it set up in such a way to like, who isn't clicking on this up to 80% off the way this is laid out? Why wouldn't you?
Right.
You know, you've opened it for a reason. I think they're getting an intense amount of traffic through the open stage to the click through phase. And this is a great subject line to get the open, I think. The little emoji early, it's not getting cut off, 80% off, great offer, and probably listing off their most popular collections, types of products. I didn't call out the same thing here, kind of simple, put the offer in. You can still get it. It's not going to get cut off. These are savvy email marketers, I think, running these emails.
For sure. I'm going to call out a thing that's a little different that I loved that Flag Nor Fail did, and then I'm going to give them one thing I think they could have done better.
Sure.
This is the anti-trend in e-commerce. Where is their logo in this, right? So I'm going to describe this. The very first thing you see when you open this, very top center thing, is the timer. Almost always for e-commerce brands, that's the logo. They put their logo top center, and they might do it small, and that's fine, right? But that's not what Flag Nor Fail did. They did it in the timer, and then they just meshed their logo into the GIF that has their offer, right? So they have a GIF that goes Black Friday sale, it's flashing on and off, and then they communicated it really well. 100 items marked down up to 80% off, and the logo is meshed in right there. So like fantastic. Yes. Like did not waste space with that logo taking up a whole little, it's not a big space, but that whole space of
and it disrupts that trend too, which is nice.
Yep. Seeing the timer first disrupts that trend. Here is, I do love how they did their all calls to actions where they bucketed them and they said, hey, here's the up to 80% off section. Here's the up to 50. Here's the up to 20. Here's what I think they could have done better, especially if they're going to use text in their emails. Is Flag Nor Fail it's a very influencer driven brand. You have Rob Bailey and Dana Bailey, Dana Lynn Bailey, right?
Yeah.
I think they should be signing their emails off from at least one of those two, probably Dana. Like I think she's
maybe even put themselves in the assets.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, I think that's probably, I bet they're trying to get away from that because it's like too hard for them to be shooting. But what's not hard is to have the person who writes your emails just write it in your voice and sign off as you, right? And yeah, so for sure, if they could have done Black Friday sales are here, hey Flag Nor Fail crew, Rob here or Dana here, then I would have been like, hey, now that text wall, that's a plus because it's like, that's actually big opportunity in email for influencer driven brands.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a fair, honest one positive call out, one semi-negative. I mean, it's like you said, we're a little more understanding just because of what we do, that we know brands that are built on like a certain person's image or a couple of people like that. You want to include it in everything, but it only stretches so far from an actual like logistic point.
From a logistic point of view, they don't want to be in every single photo shoot for every single drop, right? But
they're like, hey man, I was standing up for 10 hours yesterday getting just pictures taken of me at
especially those two. They're very they're training, right? Like I think Dana maybe competes.
Hey, they might get tired once in a while.
Yeah. And it's like that's not why they started this brand in the first place, Sure. So yeah. Going back to some ads. So remember category 1 was run your evergreens. Category 2 and just overlay Black Friday. Category 2 was like just make some here Black Friday sale assets. Category 3 is the in-betweener. So this is an asset that still shows what the product is. So this is by Ondar, and it is an asset. The core asset is somebody turning the wallet around, showing the wallet, and then showing the little mechanism that flips your cards out. The kind of switchblade mechanism that flips your cards out. So the asset on its own takes somebody new and helps them understand what this product is. And then there's just an overlay on the top of shop our biggest sale of the year. It's not a long asset like that. Nathan James asset was kind of like long, really explained it and stuff like that. This is more quick to the point. Here's what the product is, and it's on sale right now, 30% off. These are the assets that we're running in collections ad units with the catalog, right? So this one's not because ads library doesn't show catalog ads. which is a nice little hack if you want to hide your ads, by the way. But yeah, so it's just got Black Friday copy, Black Friday headline, and a Black Friday overlay over a very simple video that just shows what the product is. So it will work for the people who already know you, and it will work for new people as well. But it's not going to work for new people who like really need to be sold on the idea, right? Like if they're already like, oh yeah, I kind of need a new wallet, or I'm looking for a gift for dad or whatever. That's who it's really going to work on.
Which if there's been a theme, I think so far, I think maybe we oversimplify a little bit in the way that we say like, hey, keeping it simple, generally a good idea. I think there's a balance of like, hey, you have to go after the low hanging fruit. People who are already enamored with your brand, been looking for that opportunity to buy. Sure, you need to like gather those people and try to sell them. But I guess you're limiting your potential if you're not also trying to think a little bit more true prospecting, obviously, because anybody can convert on a day like today or for the next few days. I will say this again, just certain things pop out. This was probably made by somebody savvy enough to understand like dimensions, and I would imagine that this was
yep, this translates perfectly.
9x16. Yeah, whatever it was shot in or whatever, yeah, it works well. Which is just one of those like, there's no other way to describe it other than like when you're in the thick of things, like you just know there are certain things you can
there's
do.
A way to shoot there's a way to shoot like literally film your original assets so that they will translate super easily into a square like a square format, like a 1x1 format, a 4x5 format, a 9x16 format, and if you're really good, even a horizontal 16x9 format, but that's probably a little less important. Yeah.
No, it's a real pro move, and you can kind of notice it when you see it. Yeah, and it's just good practices. You know, you don't want to like spend all day like worrying about that, but if you just kind of adopt that as like, hey, that's like a best practice, and you just kind of do it naturally, like you'll just have more ammunition on every channel where you need it, you know, than you otherwise would. So good shout out by them. I guess sometimes you don't even know how to like describe it, but you kind of just know pros doing their job when you see it sometimes.
Yep.
So, and it's so super well, that goes without saying all the stuff I would normally say about this. I love the simplicity of like showing what this product does. Like you don't need any more than this to sell this product.
Right.
The other call out who is aware of the brand.
The other call out I'll make here is we don't see this much anymore. Link in the ad copy. They used to be like always link in the ad copy, and then we came out with this.
I'm still a fan of it, kind of.
I liked it too, honestly.
Why does it hurt? I don't get it.
We came out with this theory essentially that Facebook drives the CPMs up if you put your link in your ad copy. Also, sometimes brands think it looks tacky. So if the brand thinks it looks tacky, this is actually a great way to do it. Like this is the biggest sale of the year at ondar.com, right? Like it's a really natural place to like put like just say ondar.com.
More often than not, when a brand thinks something looks tacky, I'm like, I still like to do it. I'd like to try it.
Yeah. Could we test it, please? Yeah. So yeah, don't sleep on the link and copy. It feels like we really moved away from it in e-commerce. But definitely just keep testing it. Maybe Facebook does pump up your CPMs when you do it. And so if you test it in an ad account and that's happening and it's not working, then you don't have to revisit it. But don't forget about it. You know, we used to always do it, and now we don't do it so much anymore. Don't forget. It could still work.
People don't forget. I guess people do forget sometimes.
Right.
Whatever.
That's the point.
All right. I think you have one left, right?
I have one left. Yeah.
Okay. I have one more group, so I'll go my round 4 here real quick. And the theme behind this round is I didn't know how to put it into any other category, I guess, that I had already kind of pulled up. So I think with this is the true mixed bag. There are things immediately that jump out at me on both of these that I like, things immediately that I do not like. So just looking at these real quick, got to get this format of how to show these things down. Now this is the last round. I'm going to show you the whole thing first. There's not much to it. And then we can talk about it. Same thing over here. Real quick. Showing you here. So yeah, for those that are just listening, I guess the first one we're showing here is an email from MeUndies. Excuse me. And we have just this like GIF asset kind of right underneath, just like a simple menu that has like a logo and a couple links to different collections. Actually, it looks like it might all be one. Looks like the real thing is it's sending all the traffic to one thing. So that's a fake menu there. Then we have a GIF here that's just kind of cycling through essentially those same call outs from above those same menu items. And we have some, backdrop of up to 66% off with packs, which I believe is the subject line of the email. We have Pack Friday is like a different color kind of overlay on the same asset. Our lowest price ever. Another thing with the same secondary color kind of overlay on top of the image. And then the first thing that I really like the most about this is this kind of like interactive effect of this call to action of the shop packs here. It's a white button that has a cursor hover over and essentially do like a mock click and change buttons. It just looks like somebody's clicking on it. So I always like those things. I think there's an undeniable amount of like monkey see, monkey do in human psychology where like, hey, as opposed to call to action that just stays white and sits there, I bet this is helping people click more often. Other things I like that there's a couple different colors. I like that they do have the offer included here. And I'll really quickly just because it's about the same stuff. Personally, I just don't like the color scheme. I think it's awkward looking, but no accounting for taste. I'm colorblind as well. I will say this they rode the line perfectly of like, you do have your offer front and center and it's very big, but it's hiding behind this GIF. Like I can't really read it.
Yeah.
That's my main just like schizophrenic view on this whole thing. John, take over.
Yeah. I think they overlaying the products like on the offer. There's something awkward about that. Like they could have laid this out a little bit better and it would be better.
Trying to do too much. And in the same way how I said, like, you just know a pro's work when you see it. There's multiple things about this ad that tells me that like this thing was another one where I realized this is all one link in this header here. It's not really a menu bar. I'm like, I don't know what that's doing for you. Really. It looks like somebody who doesn't normally do this, maybe kind of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, if I were to redo it, I would do a different color scheme. And I would also probably maybe not even put like the products overlaid on the GIF. Honestly,
something I'm just realizing, this never actually uses the phrase Black Friday anywhere. Pack Friday, I guess, is a play on Black Friday. I'm just now realizing that because it rhymes, but it also, I don't think everybody gets that. So a little strange, maybe Black Friday doesn't make you stand out compared to other emails in somebody's inbox, but at the same time, it definitely it doesn't help to just kind of not bring it up at all. So
did you want to step through the other email as well?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Next one here, again, similar thing. There was really just like one thing I thought was interesting about it, but mostly not in love with this email. Don't really like this headline. I think it's fine for the day, for the purpose, sitting in a sea of promotional subject lines. I don't think it's going to perform that well, although it's fine. It's okay. Just time and a place for something like that. Another like kind of negative space sort of thing. Looks like this is almost like an accident, like kind of weird spacing. The offer, clear call to action for free meat, showing some products. There's some good things going on here that should happen. Easy to just click through and buy. I know right away that this is a Klaviyo email, so I like their choice in tool. And this main asset, I do like. There's something about this like spiraling in me. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's because I like meat. I'm a dude, but like there's something about the way this is done to where it's attention grabbing and it makes me want to click through. I'll be honest.
Honestly, it's like a pretty dang good offer that they buried.
It is
like they kind of like squandered like a great offer. Honestly, we go back up to the subject line.
Should be up here.
The subject line is if you like delicious, free meat, this email is for you. Like
that's honestly, not even.
I would have just.
There's no reason for those commas.
Yeah. If you like delicious, I don't even think that's the right usage. Yeah. Like I would have just put like free meat, like or Black Friday, free meat, and
free come get your free meat. Claim your free meat now, make it transactional a little bit, maybe something like that.
Otherwise,
you have one offer waiting for you, free meat available. I don't know. I'm getting crazy now.
Yeah, Black Friday freebies too. Yeah, I don't hate the asset. I think that it's like they could have again been more like free meat in it, but yeah, it's like they buried the lead in the subject line. They made the subject line really unexciting, and then they like made it like that top spacing is just not good. So
Can I just say
yeah,
one thing too? And this is pretty much across the board. And maybe I'm on the wrong end of this because I think there's a time and a place, and there's data to support that this kind of thing works. But I just cannot support like headlines starting with plus you can do. I'm like, that is just never needed there. You know what I mean? Like, this is already like a hard stop. This is a new block. You can just say you can lock in your 20 or your price for 2023. And guess what? This is 5 characters, like 4.5, like with a tiny little thing. Same thing's going on here. That would have made it like a nice, perfect, like one liner with the same exact font. Like, maybe I
I
get
would have
caught up
just
in the
said
aesthetics
lock
things.
in your price for 2023.
Yeah, but even if you want to have the you can though, like just removing this allows this to be one line, to be a lot cleaner. I would just love it so much more. Like, there's just easy things on the table that I would use to
Yeah.
optimize here. Maybe borderline too much text. When I was sending a lot of emails, I kind of had like a 3 to 4 line rule before I wanted something else to shake it up. And every once in a while, you got to do like a couple paragraphs in a row, especially if that's the only text you're going to put in the email. That's fine.
Yeah.
But like real quickly, I would maybe try to reorder these blocks to have like this 4-liner of copy, then something like this block, then another little bit of text. But really, I think this is borderline on too much text for any one spot in an email, especially when it's not like in an asset. Like, it's just regular text, and just you're gonna lose a ton of people right here. So anyway, not going too long there. Did you have anything else?
The plus doesn't make any sense when you pull it back. Yeah. The plus doesn't make any. It's weird. And also the you can, like, if it were you can lock in your price for, like, that's a little passive voicey to me, just like lock in your price for 2023, right? The other thing that I'll call out, and I think I read, and I don't know why this is occurring to me, I think I read like a study on this once. If you're going to do paragraph text, like if there's like 3 to 4 lines of text, centered is not good. Like, people don't follow it very well. So you want to left align it if you are going to put a text, like a paragraph.
I agree with that. And I generally don't agree with that in email, because I wouldn't normally ever break that rule. Like I said, it's usually 4 lines to me. I'm like, yeah, that's this is 5 lines for anybody who can't see, by the way. So 5 lines in a row, especially following 4 lines of text right before it. It's just too much. This is officially a text wall, just barely, but it is. And I would agree. This should be left line probably at this point, but ideally I'd just cut some of it and keep the formatting. Just clean it up.
Right.
Anyway, that's what I had for emails. John, you ready to wrap this thing up?
I'll back clean up. Yeah, I'll back clean up with ads here. So I actually have a couple for the last one.
That was a nifty shift, by the way. I think I hit the remove my thing.
I know. Like, we should be better at that. Like, so
people are watching this deep in, they'll respect it too. Come on.
I know.
Minute 15 in, drop a like on the video, you guys, if you're in here listening.
Yeah. That probably seemed like somebody was on the same screen changing from that last email to that, but that was Casey removing his screen and me putting my screen up that seamlessly. So I got a couple here from Obvi, and Obvi I like to bring up and call out because Ash, we know him, and he's he does his own podcast and stuff like that. I've been on it, and he's a super smart advertiser. I've got some criticisms of these ads. Now, performance speaks, and I bet that, if I were a betting man, I would bet that this is his best performing Black Friday ad. But I'm going to push back on it, and I'm going to say, but that's because of so many people who know about you, because of all the traffic you're always buying, not because it actually performs better, not because it actually converts people better than the other ad that I will show. So here are the couple criticisms I have of this ad. There is some offer stacking here, which is kind of cool, right? Like Black Friday sale. So we have Obvi Black Friday sale and up to 4 free gifts, right? And it kind of gives a little picture of the 4 free gifts. So, he's really trying to sweeten the offer. And what this really is, I'll tell you now, is it's a buy more, save more. So you get 30% off site wide, and then you get a free gift, at different
pretty small print on there.
Right. Different levels of spend. So it's like that already, like, my criticism number one is I just feel like it's too confusing of an offer. And I would guess that Obvi doesn't get that feedback because there's a lot of inside baseball happening in Obvi. They have like a really like a large community that will follow along enough to understand the offer. So, I mean, that's maybe it's worth it to do a confusing offer to like get all of those people to buy right now. But I would say that, like, for anyone who's like even semi new to the brand, it is a little tough to follow along. Like, I think you could offer stack in a little bit less confusing way. My second criticism is, because you already have this thing that's really hard to explain, this stuff that where, they're showing the container, showing the Fruit Loops, like showing the bar, showing the container down here, that's probably not really needed in this. Like, it makes this a little too busy. If you took all that out, I actually think that this asset would be stronger. If it just said, here's the offer and here's a picture of the 4 free gifts. So here's one that I think does it a little bit better, and it's a video ad. Let me zoom out here. Yeah, and then I'll actually pair that one and say, okay, so if you saw that ad and then you landed on this page, you wouldn't really, again, you wouldn't really know enough, because it's you get, okay, 30% off. You understand that part of it. Plus there's some free gift thing, but then we get right into, products. So yeah, it probably works for people who really follow along with Obby. But I would bet that it's a little confusing for new people. If new people come in through this ad, however, and they have, audio on, then I think it could work.
Obby's annual Black Friday sale is here, and their free gifts this year are insane. You can get this refreshing cucumber face mask, bamboo hairbrush, blue frother, and blue motivational water bottle. Spend more, earn more. Obby's annual Black Friday.
Right. So it's like, if you got that confusing offer, I mean, she only needed 10 seconds, 14 seconds to really explain it. But that, yeah, you've got to format it that way. So it's like, everybody gets 30% off site wide, and you could earn this, or this. That's the other thing about all of the graphics. You don't really know what the gifts are. Do you know what those are? Now you do, because you saw that ad. But yeah,
I didn't. I couldn't tell from the ad, honestly, either. I can't.
Right.
See.
Yeah. Like, let me even zoom in. Let me zoom way in here.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's like, not a critique of how we're showing it. That's I don't think anybody could see it on its native,
right?
Usual size.
Yeah, I like, you wouldn't see what the gifts are. So yeah, some critiques of Obby there. What I will say is, I love the offer stacking approach. I also love that ad, that video ad, like kind of explaining. So that's category number 4 of ads that I will call out. Is you got category number 1, just put overlays on your best performers. Category number 2, which is make specific Black Friday ones. Category number 3, which is the blend. And category number 4, that's make ads, like shoot new ads for Black Friday that talk about your offer. So I love that they're going that far. And yeah, I love that they're offer stacking. But a few criticisms, obviously, hopefully Ash has got thick enough skin, and maybe I'll add him on Twitter and send him this, and he'll just be like, you don't know what you're talking about, and he'll give me the numbers. I'm sure it does really well, because again, there's a lot of the insiders that like really follow along. So, if that's the strategy, that's the strategy. But yeah, I think it could just be punched up a little.
And some of the brands we show, to be just completely clear with the audience, some of the brands we show, we have some insight into, like, we know they're good marketers there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're the exceptions to rules, but we still we use them as examples, because a lot of times, like, the big brands, the brands you hear about, you want to imitate. And a lot of times that's what our message to other brands should be, is like, don't just play that imitation game. Like, I would say my main critique of Avi there was definitely the business factor, and it was kind of all over everything. It was in the ad, the first ad at least itself, and that went right through to the landing environment. It's just inundated kind of with imagery, but not messaging. It's what I mean by that. Like, I'm not really getting what you're trying to tell me, because it's just kind of a lot all at once. Like, you're excited about it, though. It's a big deal. But I don't know what
the landing environment is built for mobile, like, to be fair, but yeah,
I totally get it. That's and I do like their copy. I like that it's like clean. It's it's nice and aesthetic. It is listing a little bit more about it. Like, it's kind of listing the benefits of what the sale is a little bit. I would say that the main thing I would try to convey in any of these assets isn't necessarily every aspect of the offer, but that you need to click through to find out more about the offer. And then at some point in the funnel, and ideally on the next step, the landing environment, there's more clarity. It's fine to tease, and I don't think that's what they're trying to do here, is tease, but it kind of is, because you kind of like, I can tell they're trying to tell me there's a good offer going on, but there's a lot, and I just want to click through quickly and find out. And then I wish it was way more easily described on the next thing, like super efficiently,
Right.
or as much as
Right.
possible. And maybe a video there that's not even like designed to like be quick and capture attention and move you to the next step. Maybe a more
Yeah.
explainer video of the offer there
I
by
mean, it
some like
didn't take long.
founder or somebody, you know.
Yeah, and honestly, it could even be a GIF there, right? She explained this in 14
Absolutely,
seconds,
just for a
right?
great way to make more real estate that would otherwise not be there.
Give more information with less real estate. We learned that with Diesel Brothers because they do insane offer stacking where they're like, you get this and this and this and this, and it's so hard to explain to people that
Mhm.
like you need to do a lot with a little real estate, and a GIF feeds the things to people one at a time. So they can like, oh, I've absorbed that, I've absorbed that, I've absorbed that, and now I'm still one scroll away from shopping, which is what Avi was going for on that landing page.
That is a great call out too, because if again to training your audience, if you've trained them to anticipate, hey, that's not the only thing they have going on, and
Right.
they kind of become their own detective. Like I know they have 3 or 4 offers happening at once that kind of stack,
Yeah.
like a diesel power gear. Same thing there. Like maybe they know that there are people like, hey, it's kind of they know how to toe the line of like we are more just kind of stirring up some like you're going to want to check this out yourself kind of thing.
Yep.
And I imagine those people are super stoked about it. They're just so happy to see those offers stack and probably getting heck of a conversion rate from those people.
Yeah, I'm sure they're doing well. Well, it is that time. You want to take a shot at it? You want to take a shot at the parting shot?
Okay. I will say this.
Let's do it.
Kind of echoing a little bit from the start, and hopefully it rang true throughout the entirety of this episode. But Black Friday is kind of like marketing, just boiled down to its finest things. Kind of the principles you believe in year round should be highlighted in your marketing strategies for Black Friday. But also, you should be willing to play with the spectrum of aggressive versus conservative, I think is a little bit of what we talked about. And you don't have enough data to make all the decisions you want to make on Black Friday. So you have to look at last year. You have to look at maybe even the year before. But you also need to be aware of outside factors that will impact those things, because year to year is hard to rely upon data. It doesn't always tell the full story. So get as much data as you can, take it all with a grain of salt, and just try to have great offers. That's the secret to Black Friday.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Like, I think that's it. If I were to boil it down, and we didn't even talk about this, if I were to boil it down, I would just say like the better you can make the offer, and I would even say better from like a good perspective and better from like a unique perspective. Like one of the things I should have called out on that MeUndies thing is that they didn't do 60% off or 70% off. They did 66% off, which I like, right? Like,
Yeah.
So if you can make it like better, more unique, do some stacking. Like we were a little bit critical and kind of breaking down some stuff here, but like, honestly, it's exactly what you said. You don't have the data to make decisions. You got to make a lot of intuitive decisions in Black Friday, because it's not like, oh, we can do it, we can test, and we can come back to it. Like, no, like you're kind of taking your shot. So yeah, just do your best. And we didn't really need all of that parting shot time. Just run good offers.
That's a good point. John, thank you for joining me live on this Black Friday special live episode of Modern Commerce. Modern Commerce, if you have enjoyed this episode as much as I did shooting it with my friend John, then please click on the like button below to let us know you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button so you're subscribed to our channel. Hit the bell icon to get notifications for whenever we drop new content onto our channel. And as always, Modern Commerce, until next time.